Uh, testing. Can anyone hear what I'm saying? Nice. Okay. Looks like there's a 10-second or so delay, so the questions might be a little bit hard to answer, but I guess they'll work out. So cool. What do we have? We have 7 people that came. Good. This will be a small group, so we can actually do some back and forth with the Q&A, which hopefully there's a good amount of. Let me bring up the page that I had put together. I'll put this into the chat too. Whoops. There. So, okay. Feel free to talk as much or as little as you want to, but I would like to get like a little understanding of are there polls on this platform? I'd like to know where people are in terms of coding. Are people brand new to coding? Are they already web devs, or are they in a different role and they want to just learn about front end stuff? Or uh, if you could just throw that into the chat whenever the video actually comes through. Cool, yeah. I think it'll still work. Um, Let me see if I can put a poll in. High school? Cool. Okay, so then you know probably very little. Is this your first time doing anything? Okay, you're learning Python right now. That was actually my first course too. So Python works just fine. And I think the things that we're gonna do, they apply pretty broadly to most languages. So I don't think it'll be bad for you. Python, cool. First year CS university student, know a bit of Python and C, cool. Pretty new, learning Java. Okay, all right, that's all reasonable. So it looks like a lot of high school, college. That's good. I still feel very close to the person I was in high school and college, so I think I can probably answer a lot of the questions that you end up having. Java 4 months ago, no experience for that. Okay, cool. So no one is a front end expert. Everything is going to be new in terms of the front end stuff to you guys, so that works great. Oh, Helsinki, nice. What time is it there? I guess it's the morning for you. Good for you. Okay, so I have a rough agenda. I don't. I really have no idea what I'm doing, so we'll just see how it goes. But I thought we would maybe start off with just kind of going over the plan, the thing that we're going to build, and the things that I'm going to show you today, and then that'll maybe take like an hour or two, since you're all pretty new to front end. I think a lot of this you'll have a bunch of questions. Feel free to just ask those as we go, and I have like this little whiteboard application that I set up so I can actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We can actually go through some stuff if we have to. But and then towards the end, we'll have a little what we call it parking lot in actual professional programming speak. That's like when we have our stand-ups and we every day we do stand-up. We tell each other what we've done, and then at the end we say like all of the miscellaneous stuff. So if you guys have any questions after this about anything that we learned here, anything about like I'm guessing a lot of you might have questions about interviewing or stuff like that. Then towards the end, you can ask me like whatever you want. Okay, cool. So you're not actually in Helsinki. That's fine. I'm still impressed. 4 a.m. Okay, we have one from UK. Okay, well thanks for getting up early. All right, cool. So does everyone have? I'll type this out. Everyone have the VM set up, or at least a working dev environment? I set this up because I thought it would be easy for us to kind of work on the same page. If you already have a laptop and you prefer a different operating system, really all you need is a terminal. Mac works close enough to Linux that it won't matter for our purposes. That'd be fine too. But so long as I know that if everyone has something, then we can just get right into kind of the that worksheet that I had pasted into this right down here. Might be generous to call it a worksheet. But okay, so yeah, I've been having a ton of trouble with VirtualBox. This is the first time I've tried to use it, and I've had a lot of issues. Other people had that too. So One Echo, do you have an alternate environment set up for yourself? Are you still okay to do something? Do you have basically, if you're on a Mac, that you're set already? Or if you're on Windows, then we might have to figure something out for you. You might need to open up Bash on Windows, or just follow alongside with Google to see like what the equivalent commands are. Okay, cool. All right, then don't worry about it. As long as you're good to go. So yeah, what we're gonna do, we're basically just gonna do like an intro to modern React development. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Okay, if you're on Debian, it doesn't matter. It's totally fine. We're gonna do an intro to React. We're gonna build something super simple. It'll expose everyone to just like the concepts. You'll get a feel for like what it means to even develop web applications nowadays. This is more or less even what it looks like on a day-to-day basis when you're working at a big company as well. So I think it'll be pretty useful. So we're going to start off with just getting. I have the VM set up so that like VS Code's installed, and I figured we'd just go through like downloading Node and putting that in the path and everything, just so people know like this is basically what you'd be doing as a front end dev. So let's start with. I'm just gonna go Node download. This part's not going to be too fun, but gotta do it. So for me and the VM, we're doing the Linux 64-bit. If you're on Mac or something else, then feel free to do that instead. So do people feel more or less comfortable with using the terminal? I guess let me know if you don't. I'll go faster or slower. I'll kind of like avoid fancy shortcuts and stuff. I want to make sure people aren't going to get lost. So let me know if that's the case. So I just downloaded Node. That downloads to downloads directory. We can untar it here like this. So we have Node. So that created this folder over here, and this folder has here should have a bin directory. Yeah, there we go. Cool. What I typically do is I just keep everything in my home directory. I used to have all these complicated routines, but it seems to just work the best. So download there, move it here. I'm going to put it on my path. So I have no idea how much people know and how much they don't know. If you don't know what the path is or what I'm doing, then just like put it in there and let me know. And I'll go a little bit slower and I'll explain stuff too. Um, so this is the path that should have node on it. So we're doing this so we can execute it from the command line. Here. Cool. And then at the very end of this, I'm just going to add export path equals this path and the rest of my path. I'll throw this into the chat too. Cool. If you don't know what that means, ask. I'll explain. Whoops. Cool. Oh yeah, so if you don't use Ubuntu and this is your first time using this image, the Windows key launches, the search menu, and then you can just search for a terminal, launch that. That's how I'm doing this. So at this point, we should have node on the path. So if we do which node, something should come back. Looks like it's good. So now we have node. That's great. Node is like your whole life in modern front-end development. So almost everything you do is going to be using Node, and you'll have big Node modules folders, and some things end up being really nice, some things end up being kind of hard, but no matter what you do, there'll be something like this. Cool. All right, the next step we're going to do, Node stands for, NPM comes along with Node. NPM is the Node package manager, and this is how we install applications in Node-land, in JavaScript land. If you're on Debian, Debian has apt. It's a package manager. If you're using a Mac, you have Homebrew. Homebrew is a package manager. Every language has something like this nowadays. Like I don't know, you've picked up Java. Java has Maven, for example. So this is just like the JavaScript version of all those things. Whenever you want a library, you get it through here. So in this case, what we're going to do today is we're going to use Node to install create React app. -G will install it globally for all users. So it should be on your path as well. So excellent. So we just installed create React app. Create React app is like a project setup boilerplate program. So we're going to use this to create our React project, and it'll have a bunch of convenient like server build type things for us. It'll hook it up to a browser, so we won't worry about too much of the other stuff. We'll just say set our sample project, and we'll morph it into something that we might care more about long term. But for today, I think the point is really just to see like, hello world, here's React, here's all the concepts. So if people just joined, you can open up this thing, and I'm just working through this part of the worksheet here. So this part's also up to you. What I tend to do is I have a workspaces folder in my home. I just keep everything in there, all my projects. So now we're going to create our React application with this command right here. This program can create like so okay, here, let's see. Do people understand the difference between something like JavaScript and TypeScript. How do you feel about that? Here. Oh. Yeah. Um, Nowadays, people have been treating JavaScript kind of like a compile target. So there are languages nowadays like TypeScript that make it easier to develop in the front end. If you like dynamic languages, then maybe you don't care about TypeScript too much. But like Python, for example. Although I think even Python has some controversies lately. They're gonna start adding optional type systems in the later versions of Python. If you're used to Java, then TypeScript will feel a little bit nicer, although the type system definitely works a bit different. Um, but for now, we're just going to make sure that we're not going to use JavaScript directly. We're going to use TypeScript. The experience will be very similar. Um, Here, cool. TypeScript is really cool. Yeah, you can get super deep into it, or you can stay pretty high level. But uh, I think we're going to keep it simple. If people have specific questions on it, I can go into it. I actually love it a lot, but it's from Microsoft too. So I used to be a pretty adamant Microsoft hater. I was a huge Linux enthusiast, and I thought Microsoft was the most evil thing in the world. And now I'm using VS Code and TypeScript, so I guess they're doing a good job, kind of changing their image. Nice, here we go. All right, cool. So I should have a folder here with our project in it. And then if we look inside, these are the normal kind of things that you would get ignore. How do here's another question. How do people feel about Git? If there's any trepidation about Git, then we should just hammer it out now, because Git's also going to be a huge part of your lives going forward. So I think I installed it in the image by default, if I recall. Did I? I didn't install Git. Okay, so if you're on Linux, go ahead and install Git. It would be like this. Coder55 is the password if you're using the VM. If you're on Mac, install Git. I'm sure Google will tell you all the answers here. Here are all the ways you can install Git. Oh, apparently I should have done Git all. I'm sure it's okay. Yeah, so the heard of it, don't understand it. Cool. Oh man, it's kind of lame that the chat is so delayed from the video. But okay, so oh nice. Okay, so hey, I'll make a note about this here. So cd desktop. I'll say parking lot. Explain TypeScript. Cool. And we will come back to that in the end. We can get a little bit deeper into that. Okay, so I have a project here. I'm going to use Git to initialize my Git repository. So now I can do Git status, and I can finally commit things. You should get super used to creating Git projects like right away. Just whenever you do anything, make a Git project, save it all. You will thank yourself later when you delete your source code. So do we want to ignore anything? Oh, looks like they even made a Git ignore for us. That's nice. That looks good. Cool. Of course, my aliases aren't here. Cool. Do that for yourself, but make it real. Nice. Okay. So at this point, we have a working project, and I think we're gonna actually get to see something. Yeah, so we can open it up in VS Code. If you're in the image, you can do this. If you just installed VS Code, you can just open up in a folder. But if you have the thing on your path, then it's nice to be able to just do this. Cool. And I have Vim. Beautiful. Awesome. Yeah, I can't type without Vim anymore, so up to you if you want to use it too. Okay. And at this point, we should be able to just do a npm start, and it should start up a browser window where we see our React code, and we'll take it from there. We'll actually get into coding the React part of it, and we'll morph the example that it gives us into the hello world to do app that I found over here. So we'll build this basically, and just ask questions along the way. Beautiful. I'm going to hope this fixes that problem. I'm going to delete the node modules folder, which has all of the libraries in it. And then I'm going to reinstall everything. Like this. It's actually possible that that React app is broken because they pushed a breaking change. I'm hoping that's not the case. No. Okay. It's good that this happened. This is also, I guess, part of life. Okay, so this is not working. You get to see some commands with npm. So first off, are people getting the same thing? What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to check out, install an earlier version of Create React App. This seems like the easiest, lowest effort thing I can do without having to try to understand the problem at all. So let's see if I can do that. Cool. And this is how you pick a particular version. Um, yeah, looks like there's a lag, and I don't know if there's much I can really do about it. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I have to debug this issue anyway, so we'll have some time. Beautiful. Okay. Literally what I do all day, every day. 5 hours ago. uh, Webpack. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see if I can guess something to fix this. So this looks like a problem that was introduced today with a bundling tool that we're using called Webpack. This is the thing that takes all of our JavaScript code and it bundles it into a big file that can be run on browsers. Because TypeScript can't actually run on browsers, first it turns into JavaScript, then we take that JavaScript and we have to load it into a browser. Um, and fortunately for us, 4 hours ago, okay, so it looks like we could maybe override the version of AGV that we're using. Here's AGV. And 6.8.1 says this random person on GitHub. So let's try that. So, okay, if this works, I'll explain how to fix it. Cool. Nope. Looks like they're also the that was a little too fast. I don't believe that was true. Oops. Hey. Okay. So that sucks. um. Okay. So looks like this is the fix. Okay. So we'll use this as a bit of an excuse to let people catch up. I think what I'll do is I will edit the worksheet and add this command to it so you guys can fix it too. Nice. Yeah, so here it is. This is the secret fix. I'm pretty sure there's a feature for polls, and that would be super useful to make sure we're staying kind of in sync with each other. Nice. Howdy, Josh. Came just in time to see NPM errors. Okay, I made a poll. Doesn't seem to be showing up, so I guess that's that. Okay, Christian. I think the big difference with Windows is going to be that. So, are you using? Um, I assume you're using like PowerShell or you're using Bash on Windows. The only problem that I see is that you might not be able to connect your GUI environment to your workspace. But if that's not the case, then that's totally fine. The important part is that you can just run npm commands and you can view the code in Visual Studio. If those two things are working for you, then that's great. Um, and if those things are working for you, then the next step would be to do npm start and see if you run into that error that I just ran into on stream. And if you do, then luckily someone on GitHub just found the answer, and I put that into here. Lucky you. Okay. Just give it another minute or two, and then I'll start to go forward. I guess the nice part about this is that you can always pause me and work at your own pace as well. So let's just go forward with that. Tom. Okay, cool. The difference between React and Create React App. Create React App is just a program for literally creating these files, like the README, the source directory, the package. Like that's all that is. React is the thing that we care about. React is the thing that Facebook made that 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 most people nowadays use for modern front end development. So if you're familiar with HTML, um, now we don't directly create HTML. We use React in our JavaScript applications to create the HTML for us. The reasons why are long, and there's a lot of history to it. We can go through all of that as well, but I think just to start, we'll say that React might as well be like a UI toolkit for JavaScript. In another language, like in Java, like you might compare it with Swing at a high level if you're just beginning Java, or if you're learning Python, then you might compare it with I think it was tkinter was what the GUI library I used. You can also do like GTK in Python. That's kind of how we can look at React. React is a library for making UI components. Okay, so I'm going to proceed with actually seeing something on the screen. Uh, I'm still looking at the chat, so if you get to the point where you run into that error and you don't know how to take this fix and get past it, let me know, and I'll come back to it too. So at this point, I should be able to do npm start, and what I expect to see is a tab open up with a dummy React application. Hey, look at that. It looks great. Cool. So at this point, I'm also going to install a Chrome extension that Facebook made as well. The React Developer Tools Chrome extension right here. There's one of these for Firefox. It tends to work best with Chrome, for better or worse. I actually am using Firefox right now as my daily driver, but I even keep a Chrome around just for React development because it unfortunately works better. So actually, I don't think I need a terminal for this part. So at this point, maybe we'll do a quick tour. Nice, awesome, good job, Echo. So I'll do a little tour through the files that we have in our project here. So it looks like every project is sort of structured a little bit differently. It looks like the people that made this Create React app application that we decided to use decided that this was a good way of doing it. I'm assuming everything in the public directory is the web server. So a lot just happened behind the scenes when we typed npm start, but it looks like they spun up for us a HTTP web server. They're serving some files to us locally. Uh, that's probably all in here. Yeah. So this is our. Looks like that icon is probably this. Yep. This is the HTML page here. So we're gonna probably do a lot with Chrome and Chrome debugging. This is also something that's like if you're doing React development, like you're doing this all day. So if you view the page source, it should be this. Yep, looks like exactly what we'd expect. If people didn't know, inspect element will open up your Chrome developer tools, and this is where all the magic happens. So in real time, you can inspect things, you can change them, and you can do this on any page too. Most people don't know that you actually have these tools in the browser. So yes, we can see which one's which. We can even see, looks like this image is rotating because of this animation in the CSS. If I stop that, yeah, no more animations. So there's also apparently CSS here. Yep, here's our animation. So looks like we have all of the files here. What should be the case is that we can update these in real time, and the page should reload instantly. So we can make it, let's say, F is white. And I save that, and now it's white. So this is part of why I wanted to do front-end stuff, because you get this really tight feedback loop, so you can experiment in real time. You can even actually execute code in real time. So this is the console tab, and you open this up. You can either right-click, whoops, not the page source. You can right-click and go to inspect, or I think it's on Linux, Control-Shift-I. Something else on every other platform. But let me know if this is losing anyone. There's probably a lot that you may not understand about, like, hey, we just saw all of these things. Like, how does this relate to React? Feel free. I'm definitely depending on people's questions to decide where I spend a lot of time. So I'm going to more or less just go through creating the application if people end up not having questions that they voice. So the goal is to make this. So now we're finally going to touch React. I think, hey, this looks like JavaScript to me, not TypeScript. Let me just see one thing. I'm going to keep this, but I'm going to remake what I did. See if I forgot to add the -- TypeScript flag. No, that's it. Let's go back to the latest version. And because I don't trust it, let's uninstall this and reinstall it from the latest version. And we'll say this one is take 2. And if this one's JavaScript as well, then I guess we're using JavaScript. Yeah, one of the hardest things is trying to remember all the things that you didn't know in the past. So feel free to just call out if I've done 10 things in a row that definitely warrant explanation. It's been a while since I learned these things. Okay. Crossing my fingers to see .ts files. Come on. Hmm? 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 Okay. Hey. Okay. So I think that was a problem that I made for myself. I don't think you will have that problem. You end up seeing .js files. Something went wrong somewhere. Okay. Yep, we should see .ts files. And just to make sure, let's also test npm start. Should create. Hell yo. We figured this out before. Can't stop us. Got it. Okay. Cool. All right. Let it be known. Takes 50 minutes to create a React project. Okay. All right. Let's bake something. So at this point, we're set up. We got a project. We can make changes in VS Code. We can see them update in the browser on the left. Uh, let's test this change. Edit foobar. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna just get rid of everything. We don't want any of that stuff. Empty page. So this is what React looks like. All of this is all JavaScript. Technically it's TypeScript, but there's no types here, so it's the same thing. These things, these are React elements, and they look like HTML elements. So that's how it's designed. This is called JSX. It's not really HTML. There's a lot of complicated stuff happening that we can go into if people are curious, but this is more or less how React works. React works through building components. So they set it up for us so that the app class here is a component, and this is the thing that renders. And then in here, we can do whatever we want. So let's make a p tag. We're gonna make some text. You know, this is some text. Now we got some text there. Do it a bunch of times. Cool. We can see what this looks like by going to inspect here. You can click on this little selector, and then you can actually go into a specific element, and you see this looks like the thing that we just made. They take out the spaces, but uh, that's the same thing. So at this point, I'm going to look at the to-do sample application, and I'm gonna just try to pick apart what I think the different things here actually represent in React. Um, so I would usually start this. Let's see if I can do it like this. This is something I would typically do on paper. I have this Wacom tablet that I think would be useful. I'll start by trying to imagine here. Let's um, cool. So you should see the right side of the screen being a whiteboard paper widget, and the left side of the screen is going to be the to-do application. So what we're going to do, so this is what it looks like here. We're going to build this thing. Looks like this with like lighter sections. Each one looks like it has a little circle thing. Probably the thing that you check, I imagine. Yeah. Okay. We got a little down arrow. It's got a title. Each one has some text. And then they have the number of items over here. And they have some kind of a toggle widget. Okay, so if you toggle it, then you filter it. So I'm doing this so that I can try to plan out all the behavior that's going to have to be coded into the component. Cool. And it looks like you can delete things when you hover over them. So let's say each one has like a little hover X. Okay. Okay. So this is what we're building. I'm going to pick apart all of the things that I think are components at a high level. And this part doesn't even, we haven't even gotten to like anything React specific yet. If I was doing this in Python or in Java, I would still probably be going through a process very similar to this. So it looks like this is a thing. One of these is a to-do item. Maybe we'll say that. Looks like this top one is a thing that we can imagine existing. This is like, I don't know what you call this. This is like a to-do header section. To-do header section. And then let's say, oops. This bottom part is clearly another thing. Maybe we'll just call this a to-do footer section. Okay. And looks like I guess they're all rolled up in a big to-do widget. This whole thing. Eventually they're all put together. This is a to-do. I'll call it to-do. Okay. So at this point, we can move it up. Oh, that's pretty cool. And we'll go into each subsection. So at this point, we have kind of like 4 things that we know that we have to build. So we'll look at the to-do item. So that was this thing over here. And then within this thing, we have, looks like some kind of a checkbox widget. We have an X out widget, close button. Yeah, call it close button. And we have a to do text. I'm just making these names up. They seem to be pretty reasonable. And then we have the header section. Which is going to be this. Let's just do. Okay. Looks like this is a toggle all kind of thing. I'll just call it a toggle all. This one looks like this is the to-do title. Yeah. We're just going to systematically go through all of these things, pick out all the things that we can find. Cool. Oops. And this one had that and that and that. And that one is the to-do count. This one, these things are to-do filters. Maybe I'll just connect them back with the blue to where they came from. Whoops. Okay. This looks more or less. I don't understand what they're doing here with the. Are these other lists in the back? If they are, you can't get to them. So I guess we'll ignore it. Okay. So now the next thing that I would do, looks like this thing is going to end up getting put behind, unfortunately. But let's look at creating a React component right now for what's the simplest thing? I guess they're all pretty much the same. Let's do the header section. The header section. Looks like it has like a toggle thing, and it has some text and it's a square. Shouldn't be too bad. I'll put this back. So this is what we're making. So let's delete this stuff. First, I'll start by making some stuff in here, and then we'll split it out into another component, just like how you would make a function and split it out into another function if you're being lazy. Div is like the standard container in React HTML, so I'll start with that. Here. So whenever we want something to look a certain way, we have to create styles for it. So we'll throw a class as a do styles on the web. We'll call this class to do title header. And we'll say it has a span inside of it. What's the problem here? Oh. This is going to be something. I'll just put, this fake widget down here for now. I'll make it like that. And then the next thing in the row is going to be a text input. So I think that's this. I think value is going to be, actually, we have a placeholder. What needs to be done? Perfect. It looks just like it. Okay. All right. I mean, that's good enough for splitting it out into a separate component. Could you please increase the font size? Oh yeah, I can do that. Cool. Let me know if that's any better. And good morning. Okay, we're going to create our first component over here. This one, what do we call it? We called it to-do header section. Cool. Class to-do header section. And we're going to take this stuff and we're going to put it here. So at this point, it'll just go away. Now we got nothing there at all. But this is how you use your custom components. Instead of a div, you do the name of the class here. And now we're back. Nice. Cool. So now we know how to make components. Now we just go through, make another one for all the things that we picked out off the whiteboard over here. Cool. We had a footer section, if I recall. We'll make this empty for now. Yep. and we had a to do. We call it to do item. Yeah, cool. So those are the big three parts. Cool. We can footer. And our footer has nothing in it, so I guess we can throw a pretty weak attempt at a footer in at the start. So it looks like there's those two things there. We have, we'll say, n items, and we'll just hard code 3 items for now. 3 filters, sorry. All active completed. Cool. Looks terrible. Maybe we'll make some dummy items as well. And looks like this is the first thing is a checkbox. We'll just use the normal checkbox built in to the browser for now, even though clearly they made it pretty fancy. I think that's how you do it. Yeah. And then there's also some text after that. Here. Let's do to do item text. It's useful just to get like a skeleton of the thing hard coded, and then we can kind of pick pieces out and make certain pieces of it dynamic. Cool. And we can make a bunch of items. Just copy and paste it a bunch of times. There. So, I mean, this is the essence of what we're going to be making over here. A thing that takes in some text, and we'll add it so that you can press enter, and a new thing will appear over here. If people have questions at any point, feel free to throw it in the chat. Let's next update these items so that we can actually put stuff in. So like you know, right now they're all hard coded to say the same thing, but clearly eventually we're going to have to be able to say like, you know, new text, and it'll have that text that we just typed. So the first step to doing that is being able to actually make this component take text in the first place. So here's the component. So this is the first time that we're going to be doing something that involves types and TypeScript. So far, everything we've done is the same, whether it were TypeScript that we're using or JavaScript. And now this is the first time that we'll be using explicitly TypeScript. In TypeScript, you do this with a interface. React has this concept called props. It's basically arguments to a function. Imagine that, you know, Python give a special name to function arguments, the process of making function arguments, and they call it props. Then every time in Python, when you hear props, you know that there are things that go into functions. Well, in React, when components take stuff in, like a function, it calls those function arguments props. So what this one has to take in is going to be, looks like just text. We can call it text. That's going to be a string. You might get to the point where you get some squigglies. Feel free to take that snippet, put it into the chat, and I'll see if I can't help you work through that. The way that we use props is with these angle brackets over here after the component, and we say to do item props, and now magically, whenever we're in a component, when we're in a method, if we say this dot props dot blah, it'll see that we have this thing here. We can get access to whatever we say that we need. So so now I'm going to replace this hard-coded text with first curly brackets, because that's how it works, and then this dot props dot text. So at this point, I should get in. It'll work. Yeah, here we go. I'll get an error, and I get an error because I said this takes props, and it doesn't. I'm not giving it the props it needs. So what we can do is say text equals, foo1 here. Now we have foo1. So we've achieved one more level of hard coding. At this point, it's probably a good idea to, oops, where am I? So we got dummy components created. It's a good point to checkpoint. Okay. So I think I'm going to delay the styles until the very end, and we'll just make like the shittiest looking to-do list, and we'll worry about like the code and the functionality, and then we'll come back around to making it pretty. So the first thing that we can do is make it so that when you put stuff here and press enter, it shows up over there. So this is the first part where we get to like data. So if some of you are a little bit more data inclined and less UI inclined, you might enjoy this a little bit more. The way that React handles this is through what they call state, and they have like this system where they let you put state in a certain spot, and they make you certain guarantees that they'll update the UI if you update the state, basically. So the next question is, okay, like what's the data here? So here I might just prototype this a little bit using JSON. So it looks like there's some kind of a data, sample data. Let's say sample data. So it looks like there's like a title over here. No, there's no title. So there's like a current text. Yeah, I'm doing a very similar exercise that to this one for the visuals, but now for the data. I'm trying to pick apart all the different pieces of data that exist. So yeah, we have current text. We'll say we'll make this. Let's do it this way first, so we can just focus on types. Looks like there's a notion of current text. That's the thing that's in here. Like I am the current text. Then it looks like there's some sort of list of things in here. So there's we'll call these to-do items, and it's going to be it's an array of something, and what it is. What is a to-do item? Let's make a to-do item. Interface to-do item. We'll call this to-do list. Over here. So to-do items. Usually, when you have these aggregate collections, you'll assign unique IDs. So this is not something that so for React does have this concept of making sure that lists of things have IDs, so it knows which one's which. That's like an implementation detail that may not be important, but if we weren't using React, I think at this point we'd still say that to-do items have IDs, so that let's say that we were gonna create an application, like a full stack application, and we were gonna save our to-do items to a server somewhere. We'd want to send them off with IDs explicitly, so that later on we can ask the server, like, hey, give me to-do item number 123, and then it would be able to actually do that. So they have IDs because things always have IDs, and they have some text. And it looks like they have a selection state, right? Yeah, okay. So selected, which is that's how you do booleans in TypeScript. Pretty simple. So for now, we're going to use the app component that they gave us at the start to maintain all of this state information. So we did this once before over here. We gave props to our to-do item. We gave it these props. We don't have any props yet that we care about for the entire application, but we'll say give it nothing for now. And then the state is the second argument. We'll say the app has a state that is the to-do list, and it's just like props, except it's just like props in the sense that now if I do this state we see this stuff in here because I put this stuff over here. They're different in other important ways, but at least at this point we know that we have some place to put data in our component. So this is how you do constructors in Java. It's the name of the class. Python, it's like init or something. Python's crazy. In JavaScript and in TypeScript, it's literally the word constructor. And because it's a React component, it has to take in props. All of this was actually there before secretly, but now we actually want to do something in the constructor, so this is what we have to do. We have to sub out all this boilerplate. So the props are this, which is an empty object. And if this makes you feel better, here we can actually do this. Interface app props. There. Nothing in it. We don't care about it. Not yet, at least. There. Cool. It's called super, so this is pretty similar in Java. It's also called super. In Python, it's I don't even know what it's called in Python actually. Something. Okay, and this is where we initialize our state. So we have to say, so now that we said that the state should look like this, we have to actually say like how does it start, and then it has to have a current text. So we'll say, let's make it something that we can see for now. It's going to actually be like the empty string because it should start off with nothing in there, but we want to see if it works. So we'll say current text, and then the to-do items. This is how you do arrays in JavaScript. For this, we'll just leave it empty for now. We'll worry about one thing at a time. Okay, so here is our to-do section. So just like before, where we updated our to-do item to take in some stuff so we can actually show it, all these foos, these beautiful foos. We're gonna do the same thing with the section, and I always just name these props like the name of the thing, props, and then to do header section props, and then in here, all of a sudden, now we want to make sure that our header can actually take in something. So this is going to take in, we'll call it current text. This is going to be a string. The fact that the name matches up with the thing that we set up here, it's a coincidence. I mean, it's not really a coincidence, like it is the current text, but the names don't actually have to match or anything. They just happen to. So we have a placeholder, and I think, is this how it works? I always forget where, nope, that's not how it works. It goes in here. Oh, here. And I have to actually give it something. So current text equals some text. And I'm pretty sure it goes, so I've been doing hard-coded stuff so far. So the way you do hard-coded stuff, because when they're all strings, is you just put the string right there. But if you want to do like a reference to a variable or a value, then you have to use a curly bracket instead. So this dot props dot current text. Can I format this? In VS Code, really useful. Shift Control P or Shift Command P, and then you can search for all the commands that you have available to you. So format document. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was just getting too long, and I wasn't sure if people would be able to actually see it still. Okay, so we just passed it. So we have this thing, it takes in this stuff. I'm saying that this stuff should show up in the input, and I've said that the current text should be some text. Nice. Okay. So we got it to the same point that we got the to-do items. Now we can pass it again from our state over here. Instead of hard coding, we're going to say this dot state dot current text, and now it'll be this current text. We actually want it to be empty, so we'll just delete it from here. But now at least we have the ability to say all the way up here in this state, it'll affect things down here. So empty, it's good. Placeholder shows. Now let's make it start off, maybe. What's it start off with over here? Starts off with Oh, they even save it. Nice. So I have no idea what it starts off with. Okay, let's do this. Nothing. Okay. We'll make it start off with foo. So I'm in app right now. I'm changing what the state is initialized to. I'm going to give it an object. It's going to be whatever we said a to-do item is. So to-do item, which is up here, takes an ID, a text, and a selected. So the ID is going to be, this is something that should be unique. So later on we'll have to figure out ways of actually getting unique IDs generated. But for now, we can just say, hard coded 1, and the text is going to be foo, and selected is going to be, we'll say false. I think I overloaded the name. Yeah, I got to pick a different name. To do item data. And a to do list has a bunch of to do items that are to do item datas. Yep. Okay. So we made the initial state exist, but it's not being used at all. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make another function in this app class. So this is a function, the constructor. This is a function called render. We're going to make another function over here called render to do items. Actually, do it like this. If you want to know why, feel free to ask. I think we should just ignore the reason. It's not interesting. Not yet, at least. It's still interesting, actually. So to render to do items. So what we want to do here is we have all these hard-coded items. Instead of having hard-coded items, what we want is to make one item for every item in this array that we created up here. So let's get rid of these extra items. Let's say, I wonder if I can, I'm not sure if I can do this or not. We'll find out. If I can just do the actual array. We'll see. It's been a while. So I'm going to render just that same hard-coded one for now, just to check if this actually works. Now replace what was down here. Recall that whenever we're referencing variables down here in like this markup looking place, we have to surround it with these brackets first. So curly brackets, this dot render to do items. It's a function, so I call it. We'll see if this actually works. Hey, it works. Beautiful. So now in here, the question becomes, given an array of these objects, what does React want us to do to turn each one of these into a to-do item? Depending on how far you've gotten in, I guess, your coursework, you may or may not have used functions like filter, map, and reduce. But basically what we're going to do is, I can just draw that out real quick, because these are really fun functions. So this is not even like a React thing anymore. This is just, you'll be using map, filter, reduce for your whole lives. So we have an array of stuff. Blue. Got an array of, let's say, 1, 2, 3, and we want to turn it into, this is the input, and then the output is going to be 2, 4, 6. The way that you'd end up doing this, Python is this is like a functional programming concept here. This is really easy to do in Python. It's gotten a lot easier to do in Java, but the pseudocode of what this is we're going to map over this thing. We'll say that this is erase lasso. Nice. So this is in is equal to that, and erase that out of there. So we're going to map the input. The syntax here depends on the language. But if this was Python, then I think it would be, what was in Python? I forgot. Let's do, if it's Java right now, in Java 8 and beyond, they have lambdas, and it would look like a n. I think it's like that, and then the thing that you want it to return. So n times 2. And this whole thing, when you execute it, it would spit out 2, 4, 6. So this would be in if it were actually Java, like you would have like a list dot stream dot map, and then I think Java has this other weird thing where you have to do like dot collect on it, but that's not too important. And you get this new thing. So this is what we're going to be doing with React components as well. So that's one thing here. So what we don't have an array of numbers. We have an array of to-do items. So we have, item 1, item 2, and we want to end up with an array of to-do item right there. So here. So what we're going to do is our data, the to-do items, is this dot state dot current to-do items dot map, and we just give it the thing that we want to do to every single one of the objects in there. So it's going to be an array. It's going to be a function that takes in a to-do item, and this is the syntax for JavaScript. It's going to return a component. In the original example, if to-do item was a number and we wanted to double it, then we would return to-do item times 2, like we did before with numbers, but we don't want to do that. We want to do this. And for the text, we want to actually use the text in each individual to-do item. So we have to-do item dot text. Hey, that's right? Foo. So let's test. Foo bar. We're going to update the hard-coded initial state that we selected, and React will say, okay, I have this initial state. The page is loading up right now. I'm going to take this state and I'm going to feed it into here. I'm going to call this function, and whatever happens in here happens. And what we're doing right now is we're calling, we're creating this div, we're creating this header, whoops, and we're calling this function right now. Foobar, nice. So that works. That's good. Control Shift P. I want to format this again because it's gotten messy. Cool. Let me just say in the chat, definitely feel free to ask any questions. Cool. So we're almost done. We'll say, okay, at this point, let's just test out having multiple of them. I'm just going to copy this a bunch of times. Cool. Hard-coded 2. Foobar 2. Nice. So that works. And then I think we'll do one more thing, and then we'll look at I guess we'll look at wrapping it up, and then I just want to make sure that I give people enough time to actually ask questions, because I know I recall this from when I first learned it. It's a lot to take in, obviously, but you'll also be able to ask. You can ask whatever you want. Like, it doesn't have to be about this in particular. It could be about something you're doing in your coursework, for example, or general work programming questions, those kind of things. So the last thing we'll do is take this, make it so that we can do like new, so we can type into it, which we can't do yet. Yes, I don't know. You'll notice that too in your browser right now. If you go in here and you type, nothing actually happens. That's on purpose. We have to make that something that can be possible. So we want to make that possible. Then we want to take that text when you press enter, and we'll do it through a button first, because the hooking it to enter is actually like really ugly. Last I checked, I'll Google it first, and we'll see if it's ugly. If it's not, then we'll make it happen. So what do we want? So for this header, where's the header? This header section, we have. It looks like we need the ability to get every time a user presses a key, we want to get that, and we want to store it up here in our application here, in our state, as the current text. So we're going to do this just like before. We have to say that this component actually needs to take in one more thing. That one more thing that it needs to take in is a callback. It needs to provide its parent the ability to get notified about key presses. So we're going to say on key press. We're going to make the type right now. It's going to be a function that returns void. Yeah, that means that the parent has to supply a function to this component to use it. So we'll worry about that in a second, but we'll pretend like that's happening already. So input over here, this should have an on change. What's it called? On text change. On change is equal to this dot on. Maybe we'll just make it match the same name. Change. This dot props dot on change. So this is something that reacted for us. We don't have to worry about it's really just going to hand it off to the browser, and the browser is going to do it for us. But it's not something that we had to do, or that I did before. So we're gonna supply it with what it wants on change, and it's going to take in this dot when we get. So this is now we're making the actual function that we're gonna pass. It's gonna we'll call it something descriptive. We'll call it this dot on header current text change. That's pretty descriptive. It doesn't exist yet, so we're gonna make it. We'll make it right here. So now we have three functions in this top level app component. We have constructor, this render to do item thing that we just made, and this render function. And now we're going to make our fourth this thing so I'm going to say string. It's not true, but because I just want to figure out what the type actually is, and the error message will tell me. I'm too lazy to Google it. So here, so the type of the thing that React says this is a change event of an HTML input element. So this takes in an event, which is a change event of an HTML input element. Okay, that's just something that you just have to copy and paste. Here. So that's what we'll give it. Okay. So at this point, nothing happens still. That's fine. We have to do something with these events. We can print it out to the console to see if it works. Console.log event. And now, so if you're in Chrome and you have the DevTools open with inspect element, then if you press escape, you get this little console, or you can go to this tab, but then you can see both if it's here. And if I type, then I should see a message appear with the event being printed as JSON. Yeah. And this is all the stuff in the event. There's a lot of stuff in there. You almost never care about it. The convention is that it's in target. But you can't ever see it here. You just have to know. So event.target.value. This is not something that you can intuit. This is just the APIs of the web. You memorize it over time. Every language and every framework has this in some form. So now if I do it, I should get the letter. Yeah, F-O-O-B-A-R, foobar. There. Cool. All right. So I'm finally getting key presses. It's great. What should I do with it? I want to stick it here into this part of the state. And the way that React lets you do that is with this dot set state, and you give it an object, and that object can have any number of the things in the state. In this case, we want the current text. So we're going to say overwrite the state with current text, and at first let's just do the hard coding thing. Bar. So this happens now every single time I hit a key in here. It'll turn it into foobar. Foobar. It's useless, but that's how it works. Now, so foobar will say event.target.value. So now this is just setting it over and over again to the, actually it's setting it to the last key that you press. So it'll keep overwriting it. Oh no, that's good. I feel like that actually shouldn't work. Um, if you want to see what the state is, then this React add-on that we enabled should let us see that. Oh yeah, there it is. Nice. Yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense. If it's giving us the current text for, okay, yeah, that's fine. All right, last step. We'll React on enter input. Stack Overflow is the other half of programmer life. Yeah, see, that's ugly. It's fine. We'll use it. So okay, so back down here in the to-do header section, we also have to say on key press, and then we're going to make our second function in this component. So far, they've all had one besides the top level component. So this one will be like handle key press. We're just going to propagate it basically. This dot handle key press, and then this is the logic. So just paste that in there. Format my document so it's nice. This is a key press event. I wonder what this is. I'll say string so it triggers an error and I can see what it wants. Keyboard event of an HTML input element. Okay. And I want to propagate this to the parent, so I have to say that this thing requires that the parent passes in another callback so that it can handle this. On enter pressed, and we don't need to actually pass anything in here because we just care about this one special case. This props out enter pressed. Yep. Okay. What's your problem? It's not generic. Cool. Easier for us. Okay, it is generic over there. What you talking about? Okay, looks like there's probably two different keyboard events that exist, and one of them probably comes from React, I assume. So if I try to import keyboard event, yeah. So TypeScript has one. They thought they were being helpful, and now it's good. Oh, there's no red line. Good. All right, so header section. Now it claims it requires this new thing, so there should be an error up here. Cool. Now we'll say when enter happens, call some function. So we'll just say this dot on to do on enter pressed. That's a bad name. On header text accepted. Sounds like a good name. It doesn't exist yet. We'll make it. It's our fifth function here. Function, function, function. We got another one now. And we're going to do something. We'll just do like we did before. Console.log. Enter pressed. Prove to ourselves that this actually works. And now if I hit enter, enter pressed, enter pressed. Excellent. Okay, so here's the magic. We're going to do, when we press enter, what we want to do is we want to take the text that we have so far and turn that into another to-do item. So new to-do item. We'll say this is a to-do item data. That's what I called it from before up here. To-do item data. And they each have to have an ID. So we'll be lazy for now. We'll just hard code it. Hard coded ID for new items. The text is going to be whatever we've been saving the text every single time they've been pressing a key from the last step. So that's going to be in the current text section of the state. So we can say this dot state dot current text. And the last thing was selected. Let's say false. Work on that later. Cool. So we have a to-do item. So now we want to say const new to-do item array is equal to, so we have a new to-do item, and we want the array that we have here to include it. You never ever want to do this. You never want to do this. You never want to say, oops, this dot state dot to do items dot push. Never. Bad. React depends on you making changes to state by calling this dot set state. And if you do this, then like you'll just notice really weird stuff happening. It won't show up here. That's probably what will happen. Is it just won't show up. So we won't do that. What we'll do instead is we'll create a copy of these to do items. The way you do that in TypeScript is you do so we're making a new array here, and we say dot 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 this dot state dot to do items. So right now, to do items is just everything that was in the old one, and now we can add one more thing to it, which is the new to do item. So now we have the new array, and finally we call set state. So at this point, we should be able to type some stuff, press enter, see a new to do item appear, and the text input will still have the text in it. Nice. And we want that to be wiped out, so right here we'll also just say the current text should be that. Here. Yes. I think it's probably more than enough stuff to chew on for a first go. Yeah. I'm going to do what the responsible thing is here, and I'm going to we'll use a proper Git format. Got to do item added. This change. Cool. All right. Okay, I'll throw in a message into chat as a checkpoint. Script. So, okay, that is the first thing. Looks like pretty good retention on the viewers. Looks like people are still here, so that's good. Um, at this point, ask any questions you want to ask. I'm willing to stay for a while, so if you have no questions, then that's totally fine. If you have some questions, that's also fine. I think on the worksheet, I had said I had proposed like a follow-up project for doing a calculator, but I think it might be a better idea if you want to follow along with this, if you want to follow up with this, then I think it'd be a good idea to actually take this and then try to finish out some of the stuff with the to-do application. Like there's plenty that we didn't do. Like for example, we don't have the ability to do that, and then this number updates. But you have all the tools that you need in order to do this, and it's also really important. Like the live coding part is nice, but just like there's no great replacement for just like sitting down and kind of struggling a bit. You generate pretty interesting questions that way too. Uh, I think it might be a good idea to maybe make a subreddit for this kind of stuff for the actual question answering. I'm not sure if the Twitter page is the best place for that kind of thing. I'm open to suggestions there. I guess it'll have to be through Twitter, if not here, that would make suggestions in the first place to settle on whether or not it's a subreddit. Um, but I'm open to suggestions there. And then I think I'm gonna keep doing it every week. So we'll see. Maybe I'll solicit some new questions from the Learn to Code site. You guys can maybe propose some stuff. I think in the absence of any direction, I'm probably going to continue doing like some of these like front end oriented stuff. But a few of you mentioned that you might be interested in doing, or that you were in like the computer science undergraduate degrees. So I'm not sure if you've gotten to the point where you're doing like data structures and algorithms, for example, but um, that's certainly eligible. Um, yeah, the only reason I think that it might not be as productive is because you're bound to get a lot of that in your degree anyway. But um, it's also nice to be able to work through some stuff outside of the classroom. Okay. I think I'm just gonna hang around here for another 5 minutes. If people end up asking some questions, we'll talk about it. If not, then I'll just shut it down. Try to get these notes into a readable format. I think it'd be cool if I can actually save this somehow. Hey. Um, cool. Okay. So now I'm looking at the chat. When troubleshooting, what do you think is the most important for a beginner to do? Googling often yields jargon, which might be further along. Yeah. So if you're talking about debugging problems on the front end in this context, I don't know that there's a great way. So luckily there was a problem with Node today, as you saw, and there was something that I knew that you didn't know, that given this example, so this is the answer that I got from Googling, and you're right that this is riddled with jargon. Um, and the only reason I was able to use this jargon to fix this problem was because I knew how npm worked. I don't have a great recommendation for this, other than I don't have a great recommendation in the short term. In the long term, I got to this point by just struggling through jargon that I didn't understand. Uh, that's why I love Linux, is because it kind of forces you into these scenarios where you're you're forced to just evaluate further and further down the stack all the things you don't know, and it's just true. I think that uh, it sucks in the beginning, and it's something that gets better. But one thing you can do is ask questions when you don't have them. So part of why I wanted to do this whole thing in the first place was to give people kind of a venue to ask questions, because that was really helpful for me when I was actually learning all this stuff. I had a couple of people where I can more or less ask them whatever I wanted to, and and doing that over the course of uh, months and years, that it was super helpful for me. So in this case, no great answer. I think I think struggling through jargon, trying out commands is like actually the best way to do it. If you think of the goal as being to learn all of the space and not to solve this individual problem, because then you'll feel pretty bad because you'll take a while to solve that problem. Um, and then Christian, you said that would be great to start a subreddit. Yeah, thinking that's a good idea. Um, back to a few points in the video, it would probably be hard to get back. Yeah, and if there's a subreddit, then you can also link like a time code as the question. I think I will do that. I'll do that. I'll send it out through the Reddit, through the Twitter. But I think Reddit's like the best medium for these kinds of things. And then you can have like threads too. Yeah, I'll just do that. It's a good idea. Tom, what do you think are some good side projects to work on during your undergraduate? Is there any stuff or examples you've worked on? Yes, there is a lot of examples. Um, GitHub. This is my GitHub account. I think I have all of the stuff I ever worked on. And if you go back in history, you'll get to the point where I was in college. So if you go to the repositories, let's go further back. So we're in 2016. I graduated college in 2013. So we're almost there. Coexist was my capstone project. It was mobile. I love doing mobile development when I was in college. I'm doing mobile development now too, but back then I was obsessed with like mobile development. So I had an Android. Actually, it was before Android. I actually used um, Nokia had a operating system called Memo, and I was obsessed with this. Um, yep, that's the Nokia. Uh, Rip. But that's what I did. I just did side projects. I had like a weather application. That's a really nice one actually. That gives you a lot of experience. So if you do, mine was Qt weather. Uh, Memo. Is that it? Yeah, yeah. There it is. That's funny. I made a weather application. Weather applications are nice because they're a really good example of like what you call a CRUD application. So CRUD is create, read, update, delete. It's useful. You end up having to interact with a web server on the back end to get the actual weather, and then using the things that we just did here, you basically just take that stuff from the back end and display it. Then you have to learn how to use different phones libraries, the equivalent of React on that device. Um, if you have an Android phone, uh, you can use that. It works great. And then one other good thing to try, uh, if you're in undergraduate, yeah, so undergrad, yeah. Um, one thing people don't know is that at least my college had independent studies. So I worked with a professor. Um, he recommended this, that we can use my interest in mobile development as an excuse to do an independent study course, which counts as a full course. So it was like a 3 credit course, where it was basically just me and him, and actually another friend, doing independent study, which is mobile development, and we would agree on like what the curriculum should be, what the expectation should be. It was a project based thing in the end. So I think actually this was the output of that class. So you should talk to if you have a guidance counselor or a mentor in the program, or just any of the professors you like uh, or don't like, whatever. Ask them if there's independent study, because you can actually use this as a side hobby to get credit as well for a course. So that was great. That was that was really useful. Memories. Cool. Yeah, I'll put this into the here. There. If you wonder what I did, um, looks like I didn't have too much actually. Just this. Cool. I'll hang out for another few minutes, see if there's any other questions. Then, if there isn't, then I would recommend following up, finishing this, and then I'll send out some stuff through that Twitter to follow up on. Also, feel free to suggest improvements to the format. I have no idea if I was going too fast for people, or it was pretty silent during the process, so I'm not sure if people were actually just bailing out of the whole real time aspect of it and choosing to go back to the live stream at previous points just to catch up. I'm not sure what ended up happening there, but I think this is recorded automatically, so it could be. I kind of want to play with the times a bit. I might make it a little bit earlier. I picked this time because the straw poll had it winning, and it seemed like it was safe because it was late enough that people wouldn't be bothered. But it's a Saturday, so maybe next time I'll try to do it like a few hours earlier. Maybe like 5. I'm not exactly sure, but um, being that everyone here actually came, feel free to throw out some times, and those would be the I would have more preference for those times. Cool. Yeah, I feel like it could be a bit earlier. I'm thinking, I'm thinking 5 Pacific. And maybe some people are in Europe. 5 Pacific actually probably doesn't work for Europeans, right? I'll have to figure out how that's gonna work. Um, so 5 sounds good for America. I'll also consider doing something in the morning, like a 9 a.m. Pacific time stream. I think most people are Eastern or European, so that would be like kind of mid afternoon or evening in Europe. Let's say 5. I'll throw it through the Twitter. We'll see. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Zap. Yeah, that lag is pretty annoying. But I tried playing with the encoder settings a bit. I don't think it made much of a difference. Okay. All right. Yeah. I wanna I wanna encourage people to actually bog down everything with questions. Like, so the whole goal of doing this, like, you can watch a, there's like thousands of YouTube videos about how to get started with React and React Native. I feel like the actual content isn't such an important part of this thing. I feel like the like all that I know how to do is help people that needed the help that I needed in the past, and the help that I needed in the past was having someone to ask a question to. So I view all of this content as just an excuse to prompt questions. So I would say like that's the entire point is ask questions because other people always have them, and the video will be recorded, and even more people will have the questions after the fact as well, and it just makes for better learning. I feel to have actually have like a better back and forth with questions and answers. So I would say if anyone felt that way, like that you shouldn't feel that way. You should definitely feel like you can just ask the question. That is definitely the goal. And having it recorded means if you really just want to go through the content, like afterwards, you can just skip past the questions and pretend it was a linear sequence that didn't have random questions split into it. Okay. Hey. I guess I'll crop it. Okay. I think uh, I think we're good for today. I'll shut it down in text so you can actually interrupt me with a question if you want to stop. Cool. See ya.